Fantastic. So, welcome warmly, everyone, to my podcast, Master Your Emotion and Find Your Own Truth. So, today is number 52. I was stopped for a while the podcasting and I was diving deep into myself and finding my true self, because my podcast is called Master Your Emotion, Finding Your Own Truth and Live with Your Own Truth. This one is a challenging one. Saying and doing at the same time. Crazy, crazy. But before I'm going to introduce my beautiful guest, is number 52, number of the transformation, number of trusting your inner wisdom. That's the angel is guiding you today. So trusting the inner wisdom. So welcome warmly, Asha. That's so, oh my goodness, I couldn't describe in my words. I'm just so happy. I was waiting for that meeting 1 year. I just only checked yesterday my texting messages on the Instagram. I said, oh my goodness, 1 year ago, in August,
Oh,
actually. That was like
my
a call.
goodness.
Anyway,
I'm sorry it took us so long, but now I'm glad to be here. Okay.
it's okay. That's
Mm,
meant to be, because I realized because my frequency was a little bit lower. So
mm.
then when I changed, when I've done lots of different work on myself, then I said, okay, universe said to me, okay, Gabriela, you are ready. So here we go.
Here we
So
are.
that's right. Would you like to tell a little bit about yourself?
I have I've had a very clear and simple path in my spiritual life, in my life in general. My earliest memories, even from childhood, were this deep determination to find meaning in life and an equally strong determination to share what I learned with others. I was raised very comfortably with very good people around me, but I did not find them to have the kind of wisdom I was seeking. When I was 22 years old, which was really very early in life, I was really desperate because I was essentially an adult. I'd finished education and I could not find a path. And I met Swami Kriyananda, who is an American man who is a disciple of the Indian master Paramhansa Yogananda, author of Autobiography of a Yogi. He literally walked into the room and immediately I recognized him from who knows what lifetime. I just knew that he had what I wanted. That's how it came into my head. Just those words, he has what I want. And and it was his, he had a liberated consciousness. Whereas I realized all my life I'd felt bound in by all my own limitations, and I
Mhm.
had never met anyone who personified what I wanted to be. I met him. I saw that. He had an ashram community. I moved into it. I have never looked back. That's what I've done all these years. And I was fortunate to come when he was younger. So it was like 45 years of very close friendship, very close training. He passed more than 10 years ago. And I still just continue. My single job in life is to tell people what he told me in the hope that it will help them in the way it has helped me.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
When you just began just only talking, I don't know the reason behind it. In my body, my tears come to my eyes. I don't know why.
Mm. Well,
Some,
it means everything to me. I mean, tears come to my eyes sometimes when I think back on it, that how I could be so fortunate. That's why I do everything I can to pass the generosity he gave me. I have to pass that on. Yeah.
yeah, wow. That's so amazing to having you today. 45 years of the learning
Mhm.
experience. Oh my goodness. So amazing. I just only called this podcast because I would like to bring to my audience more knowledge and information. Why is the spirituality is really important in our life?
Why is it important? Because what we really are is truth seekers. When I think about my whole life, again, even from childhood, that was always the guiding principle. It wasn't that I wanted to understand this religion or that philosophy or this art or anything. I just wanted to know what was true. And I don't mean true in a scientific sense, which is this is how one force plays against another, or this
Mhm.
medicine will change your body.
Mhm.
what I've come to understand is what I would call divine law. And I'm a devotee. I can talk about God extremely easily. I think of God as Divine Mother. It's very close, and great spiritual figures.
Hmm.
They're my friends. But what we're really talking about is what is true? How does the world work? Not just how can I manipulate it, but what are the unchanging realities that have always been there and will always be there? That's how you get to the word God, because we don't have another word to say something that is much bigger than the reality that we're living in. Eternal truth is another way to say it. And the divine law I'm looking for is not who's going to go to hell and who's going to be saved. It's much more what understanding and actions on my part will actually bring me the happiness I'm seeking. What understanding and actions on my part will actually diminish suffering. And that's the entire question. Suffering and happiness. That's all we're seeking. To escape pain, to find joy. Not just not just pleasure and ease, though, you see, that's where it gets confusing. Just because this feels good in the moment doesn't mean that it's going to bring me lasting happiness. Just because this is difficult in the moment
Hmm.
doesn't mean still that this isn't the pathway to freedom. And that's where the subtlety comes in.
Yeah, that's beautifully you said it. But lots of people are escaping, saying, "Oh no, I don't want any suffer more. I don't want this. I don't want, no, 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 no." And they are running away. But
Well, you can't declare reality. You can't say. And among the big things that we begin to understand, think about this. Everything that we call progress and growth in our life is when we expand our awareness. We become aware of something that we didn't know before, and that lack of awareness caused us to be limited, and that limitation caused us to make errors, and those errors cost us pain. So even just from being a baby, everything is about learning, about expanding and finding out what is. So every time we go through a challenging experience, if we go through it with an expanded willingness to learn, at the end of it, we'll be aware of something that we weren't aware of when we started. It's not that we create something, it's that we become aware of it. So every time we go from unawareness to greater awareness, we have to ask the question, what's in front of me that's already there that I just don't know about? And so then when we say, oh, I don't want to suffer anymore,
yeah,
you're also saying, well, I just don't want to learn anymore. I don't want to know something I don't already know. And this is a stage. This is what takes us so long. We think that if we hide from things, we'll be safer. But you can't make it up. It just is what it is. Human nature, our own destiny, the way of the world. You can dislike it all you want. It's like we're like children. We we come down to breakfast one morning and mommy's made us eggs and toast, and we say, "No, mommy, I want the chocolate cake that's in the refrigerator." And mother says, "Honey, you can't just have chocolate cake. You have to have good food. You won't grow up strong." And the child says, "Yes, I will." And it's like, child doesn't do anything except I want. This feels good. I want. And that's why I think of God as Divine Mother. Divine Mother says, I know that's what you want, but that's not really going to give you what you really want. So
yeah.
I'm going to give you something else.
So that's right. That's beautifully you said it. And also when you said about this baby or about the children, it's like a division came to me. It's like when the child, like I've got the two children anyway. So when they were small, were hiding all the time. They closed their eyes and they told me, "Mommy, I just only hide. Can you find me?" So how? That's the things. Like we just only closing our eyes and we are thinking we just only completely hide, but we don't.
But we're not. And it doesn't change anything
That's
to
right.
close your eyes. And I mean, nothing has changed except that you're not aware now. And the conditions go on. See, the business of being a devotee, of understanding there's a higher power, use whatever words you want, is is to recognize our own limitations, and self-honesty is the key to true happiness. If we don't really know who we are and what my limitations are, and where my edge is and where a higher power begins, how to work with it, how to tune into it, we can make a lot of things happen, but we will hit the limit of that because it's not the highest reality that there is. We're all interrelated. It's scientific fact now. You can't just close your eyes and cut yourself off and then say, I want it to be this way. You try it. That's my advice to people. Go ahead. How is that working for you?
Yeah, that's definitely because I went through that and I was saying, like, I was stamping my feet saying, I want this, I want this. And by the way, I was just asking myself, why is the universe not hearing me? Why is the universe not giving me this or that? And then I said one day to myself, okay, I'm going to accept everything how it is. I'm just trusting and just only see how it goes. And now, effortlessly, everything is coming to me. I'm not saying that they're bombarding me everywhere, but just slowly, step by step. When I'm ready, the stuff will arrive, or just only I unleash or unravel that stuff in front of me.
See, part of the problem is we use the pronoun I, but we don't really know what we're referring to because we are first of all, we're just an energy pattern. It's an ever-changing energy pattern.
Yeah.
And many of those patterns are very old patterns that we created at times of less awareness, but they're still compelling us. And because it's energy, if you have a strong force, you can't move it except you unless you initiate an equal force.
Mhm.
So I will only be happy if is this strong force, but it's a question of how long we want to suffer and how willing we are to learn what we don't already know, to be humble.
Yeah.
And it's not that what we know is useless to us or not true on its own level. It's a question of how many higher levels of reality are there to find. Because if you've never taken command of your own life, to become very self-directed and I will do it my way is a step forward. But then when you reach the limits of I will do it my way, and you begin to sense that there's a greater reality here that I should cooperate with, then that's your next step forward. So we can't, we think of it as very linear, that we're all in one line and we're all moving
Mhm.
forward. But really what we are is we're separated from our true reality, which is within us in the center. I don't mean of the physical body, but of the spirit. And we're separated from it. But the way we become closer to it is we go toward the center. But we're all separated in different directions. So if one is too far east and the other is too far west, then then you go opposite directions to get to your balance point. A timid person needs to learn anger. An angry person needs to learn peace. A passive person needs to become dynamic.
Yeah.
A dynamic person needs to be more receptive. They're opposites, but they're all forward depending on where we are.
So who is going to choose? Who is for the people who are listening us? Is the we are choosing our path or somebody is choosing our path? I know the answer is obvious, but for people who didn't know,
No,
they're asking like, oh, I didn't choose that, suffering for myself. I didn't do that.
well, that's a very good question, actually. It's not a silly question at all. And again, you see, it has to do with the question I. We use the pronoun I, and we don't have a very clear idea of what we're thinking about. Is this I as I am now in my own age when I'm almost 80? Or is this I, the 20-year-old woman who had a whole very different ideas than I have at this point? Is this I only in this incarnation? Or what about the I that was in a previous incarnation that had all these other experiences? So another way of thinking about it is we have three dimensions of our consciousness. And I don't use these words quite as psychology does, but it's close. Subconscious is everything we've already accomplished, everything we've already done. It's the energy in the chakras that's already in place.
Mhm.
Okay. And that's our habits. And that's our most comfortable way of thinking about ourselves. So there's a lot of momentum going in that direction. This is what I've always thought. This is who I've always been. This is my country. This is my gender. This is my parents. These are my talents. These are the things that are already in place. And they operate on us before we have a chance to think about it. It's
Yeah.
just the way we are. The conscious mind is, and it's very subjective, that world. That's the world where you can dream. You can have vivid dreams, and you're sleeping right next to someone. They're in your dream, but they don't know it because there's no shared reality. You come to the conscious mind, that's where we all live. You
Mhm.
and I are talking, and other people will listen. And then those other people can talk to each other, and they will generally know who was in the room and what we said, but they will each take a little bit separate. But it's not completely subconscious, but it will be influenced by their own inclinations.
Mhm.
Superconscious is the highest level, and that's where literally we're an upside down triangle, and the subconscious is here, the conscious is in the middle. Then it goes out like this, literally to infinity. And the superconscious is the part of us that understands, that really knows not merely what I want, but what my destiny is and where I need to go for my ultimate freedom. And it's the superconscious that connects to the infinite. So when we say who is guiding it, one way of asking it is which aspect of myself am I giving authority to? Is it my habitual, familiar, comfortable, known self? Or is it the possibility of awareness that I can barely imagine? And that part of us is ourself, but it can be sometimes so far away from what we already know that we speak of it as if it were separate, like my divine mother. And these images are actually true because there is a force of energy that responds to us like a mother
Mhm.
or like a father, which is to say, with unconditional love, with wisdom, with the courage to say, no, my dear, you're not going to get what you want. You're going to have to face it and you're going to have to do it. But if you can imagine, or maybe you were lucky to have a mother like that, when your mother said, trust me, I know this is going to be better for you. And you say, okay, mother, I'll trust you. And that's what we're coming into. I may not like it, I may not want it, but if my divine mother has asked me to do this, I know in my heart that she loves me. I know in my experience that it will turn out right. And then we use words like surrender, but I like the word cooperate.
Very
We
true.
just then we cooperate instead of rebelling.
Wow, that's so amazing. So how we can describe the people? Because sometimes I know it's really challenging to grasp that concept in our human brain. It's like, oh, divine mother, oh, so who is guiding me in this lifetime? What is the soul? How I can describe? I don't know. That
No,
that's kind of the things that people saying, oh my goodness. Even I'm just only saying sometimes to the people, to my client when they're coming, I say, have you ever had the vision of you standing outside and just only watching your body like it's not your body? And they
mhm,
look at me like crazy I am. I said, no, I'm just only asking you. So how you
yeah.
can
Uh, well,
bring it back?
here's a fun way to think about it. There's a writer named Michael Singer, and he's written some very good books. Yeah,
Oh, it's
wonderful
amazing.
books.
I know.
Okay, so this wonderful thing that Michael came up with, which I just adore, he said, when your brain is talking to you, there's always somebody who's listening. So the question is, which one is the one that you really want to pay the most attention to? Do you want to just, and then he describes the thoughts that are always going in your head. He said, is like a roommate who's a compulsive talker. And
Hmm.
if you live with someone who's always talking to you, and sometimes they're drunk when they're talking to you, and maybe their own life is not so impressive, why do you listen to them all the time? Who is the one who is listening? And what is the nature of the one who is listening? And then all of a sudden, at least it just gives you that slight bit of distance. And even if people have never actually been outside their body and watched it,
Yeah.
we're all listening to our own thoughts. So we put more emphasis on how we listen and what we listen to, and and we build through practice. I mean, wisdom does not come easily. Greater awareness is not just handed to us like a free donut on the street or something like that. We have to earn our way. We have to change the energy pattern within us, which takes consistent, dynamic, determined energy. And you don't have to do it. Nobody has to do it. You only do it if you recognize that I wish to have less suffering and more happiness, and I recognize that this is the way to achieve it. Every decision you make, every decision, if you think about it, is to reduce suffering, to improve happiness. Some of those decisions are exceedingly stupid, but they always seem like a good idea at the time, or you wouldn't have done them.
Yeah, I agree with that because every small steps, every choices, if sorry, even just only changing your way of the thinking. Like I just only saw the beautiful reels on your Instagram that was saying not every thought is our.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
that.
But we tune in. I mean, you used the word frequency earlier, which is a word people are using. Yogananda said, thoughts are not individually created, they're universal. We attune ourselves to a particular vibration of reality, like literally like a radio station. I mean, we don't have radios that we tune anymore, but we used to. You got on the right vibration, and then that information came in. You get out of that vibration and you receive different information. That's where who I am right now is not a fixed reality. It's the habit. This is my default station. And so if I'm depressed, I receive depression. If I'm cheerful, I receive cheerfulness. If I'm courageous, I receive courage. And so whatever we are right now is what floods into us. But when we open new gates, which often is a strain to do that, then all of a sudden we're flooded with a completely different vibration. But we have to practice. We have to get acquainted with that silent voice within us. We have to study and learn about the possibility of greater realities. We have to keep good company. We have to listen to good music. We have to do things that will move us out of our habitual vibration into something that attracts us. And of course, if it doesn't attract you, you won't do it. So you have to decide for yourself, who do I want to be?
You can do it. Then
Yeah, and
follow
then
your
do it. And you don't have to do it all at once. So
no,
people
no,
get
no.
they think you have to get to the top of the mountain in the first step. You just have to do you just have to put out even a little bit of energy in the right direction. But just consistently, when you have a choice, make that slightly more expanded choice every time. And you can transform yourself to an astonishing degree, but not in 1 minute and not without commitment.
Yeah, so why the people don't want to commit? Because yesterday I had a challenge on my
Mhm.
YouTube channel. And anyway, and the people just when I asked the people who is committed, who is interested, that was like a half-half. But anyway, the people just slightly interested about something. So
We
what is
imagine
yeah,
we imagine that it's more enjoyable to be low energy than it is to be high energy. And so it's easier to stay as you are than to change, because to change requires that you have to put out energy. People imagine that they'll find comfort in diminishing their awareness instead of expanding it. And so they prefer the diminished energy. They're afraid. It's like it might not be good very now, right now. Might not be perfect now,
Mhm.
but at least it's familiar. And if I risk, it may get worse. So I call it the preference for the known misery. We just prefer what we know than having trust in the future, in a possible different future, which is why you have to do it a step at a time. And recognize that all you're committing yourself to is the next step. And then you could ask the question again each time. And your own experience then will teach you. But no, you can't wake somebody up who doesn't want to be awakened.
No, it's not. I, when I read one of the book, the Paulo de Mello, anyway, something like that, and he was just only putting something funny. That was like a story or conversation between two people, and the one had a banana in his ears anyway, and another guy
Uh-huh.
was just only talking to him. You've got a banana in your ears, but he couldn't completely listen, or he couldn't completely heard that guy. So yeah, you're right. Everyone is awake in their own time, in their specific time. I don't know,
Uh-huh.
from my experience, from my wisdom and my knowledge, from my previous lifetime, I would like to say I'm not fully awake. I will be still awaking all the time until I'm just only change this outfit in this
Mm-hmm.
lifetime.
I know that's completely true. I mean, this is the ancient teaching of self-realization, which is it takes many incarnations, and we can only move as fast as we can move, and we can only move when we want to. And what causes us to want to, always, unfortunately, is suffering, which is if everything is comfortable, we just hunker down in that comfort. But when it becomes uncomfortable, we are compelled to find another solution, which is why suffering is um, such a mixed reality. Because without it, almost no one would grow. And we wish that we could grow without suffering, but generally speaking, we don't. So it causes us to ask the right questions, which is what is really going on here? Is this really the world that I just created? Or are there other forces at work here? And when we are unaware of something, we just don't know it. But once we know it, we can't unknow it after that. You can live with someone, pretend they're not an alcoholic. But once you know they're an alcoholic, they are. You can't undo it. You can pretend that I'm in charge of my own life, but once you discover that you're simply not. You can't undo it. Once you experience the presence of a higher power guiding you, you can't unknow that. It just becomes part of what you are. And then again, the same question, how much is there that we don't yet know? And all the saints and masters say a great deal, and then they invite us to try to learn it.
I would like to say because like that was a good thing. It's like we don't know because we don't know. I would like to anyway, we don't know because we don't know. And each
Yeah.
human on the planet Earth, actually, I don't know exactly the number, seven,
Uh-huh.
8 billion, anyway. So I was just only saying we each created their own wisdom and own knowledge. So that's the infinitive number to learn new
But
things.
that's not true. People do not create their own wisdom and their own knowledge. They gradually discover
Oh
from
yeah, yeah.
experience what divine law is. And there is a reality. There's simply a reality to the way that we're made. You can't, take a knife and slit your wrist and bleed out and still
Mhm,
have this body be active. You can't not eat and still live. You can't eat broken glass and not have it have an effect.
mhm,
You cannot be constantly angry and narrow-minded and mean to people and then, sleep peacefully at night and be happy forever. You may get away with it for an incarnation or two, but it will catch up with you. Its actions have consequences. And we can declaim all we want, how we wish that they didn't, but they do. And then after a while, instead of just saying it's my opportunity to say what I want, we start asking the question differently. What is really going on here? Who is really happy? Where does that happiness come from?
mhm. It's really,
It's a school, and it's a very tricky school.
it is because when I discover and unravel something in my life, and there's so many people as well, probably will be resonating, and maybe you can add something on it. It's like you mentioned that vibration. We are vibrating with the old pattern, the new pattern. Anyway, that's really, really old. So my vibration, that was a really old vibration, which I just only took it from my previous lifetime. And in this lifetime, I didn't knew it, what is going on with my stuff, with my life, because I tried to approach something very challenging in my life, but I couldn't. Actually, I
Right.
couldn't. So when I just only tap into myself, when I just only connect with my higher version of myself, my inner self, inner knowing, inner wisdom, I said, oh my goodness, yes, that's correct. So I
Yeah.
do agree with that. If we are just only carry something from our previous lifetime, and now we have to deal it in this lifetime.
Well, you carry your own individual awareness is consistent from lifetime to lifetime. And
Okay.
when you take off a body and put on a new body, it's really exactly like changing clothes.
Mhm.
It will have a certain effect on you, it will create certain realities, but it doesn't fundamentally make you someone else. So
Okay.
when you die, you carry with you your consciousness, which is whatever level of awareness you have attained. Of course, then you have to put on a new body, and you have to be a baby for a while, and you have to
Mhm.
learn all these different things. And in different incarnations, different aspects of your karma, which is different, karma is an unlearned lesson. Different
I know.
lessons will come to you, and not all lessons will come to you at the same time. And so you will find yourself struggling in new ways, and some of your strengths will not necessarily be called upon because they aren't the ones that this incarnation is about. But we never erase what we know. We just may have to learn to apply it in a new way. Maybe we really were able to concentrate as long as we were singing, but now we have to learn to concentrate in our relationships with people. Or maybe we were very good in our relationships with people, but we never actually accomplished anything with our talents.
Yeah.
And so we have to be aware enough and self-honest enough to be able to feel which is the thing I'm supposed to be working on now. And even just to say, I'm not good enough to do this. Or even to say, I don't care if this one is coming to me. I can't deal with it. I'm going to put it off until later. Just having the humility to say, this is who I am. And that one is too big. Or help, help, help. I don't know how to solve it.
Mm.
It's all self-knowledge, and it's all being at peace with what is. And that doesn't mean to be passive. That means to accept, oh, I've had one of my arms amputated. I'm going to have to figure out how to live with one arm instead of saying, I have two arms, I have two arms. No, I don't. I want to love everybody, but I intensely dislike you. So I'm just going to stay away from you because I have to learn to love more before I can come back to this one. So you never know what the lesson is. The lesson is not always to be victorious. Sometimes the lesson is to accept, I'm not good enough to do this one, not yet. You have to pay attention very
Mm.
carefully.
Wow, that was so deep. It's like now I'm just thinking like where I am, what I'm doing, because some of the people just also the thinking like the purpose of the life is just only one, the purpose of the life. But from my point of view, it's not the one purpose of the life.
No, no, it's many, many, many,
Yeah.
many. And also it shifts. You know, we don't always succeed. We move it a certain distance. I mean, and many times in my life, I had this karma that I was working with. It was going away. I said to my teacher, Swami Kriyananda, maybe it's over. No, he said to me, maybe that karma's over. And then I got really happy. And then he said, but I don't think so.
Oh God.
And then he said, but you've taken it as far as you can take it. He said, now you just have to put it down, develop yourself in other ways. And he said, and when you're stronger, it'll come back.
Mm.
And that was perfect. You know, it's not over, but I've taken it as far as I can take it. And humility and wisdom says, just put it down. I'll get to deal with it later. And I many times, because of that, I've just like okay, I can't go any farther with this one. I'll just work on something else. And then I get strong over here, and then you come back, and when you come back to this one, you're bigger. And it was this big before, and now
Yes.
you've grown to here.
Yeah.
This, yeah.
So how did you know you came over the karma?
Oh, when you're not afraid of it anymore.
Oh, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good.
It's unfortunately very simple
Very
and very
simple.
challenging, but it's very challenging. Simple is not the same as easy, but it's very
Mm.
simple. Yeah.
No more triggers, triggering
Yeah.
points.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, I'm not afraid of it anymore.
Wow, I would like to see that. But we're not really ready to rid of all the karmic stuff in this one lifetime.
I find reincarnation myself. I like reincarnation for this reason, because it
Oh,
says, I'll do my best. And if I have more to do, I get another chance. I'm never defeated. I may have to come back and run the same race again, but that's all right. I'll do better next time. I just do the best I can and I trust that it'll be fine. That's great freedom.
amazing. So, what do you think about when you would like to come back again?
Hmm.
Are you going to remember all the stuff, all your incarnations, or maybe specific this one?
Well, from the metaphysical point of view, all of our consciousness is a pattern of energy. That pattern of energy is the astral body, which is the chakras. There's
Okay.
lots of ways people talk about the chakras. This is the way that works the best for me.
Mhm.
When you take off the physical body, you are still yourself because you are that energy body, and that energy body is actually who you are, and actually what manifests the physical body. So we go into the astral world, which is the energy world, and it's very much like this one. I mean, except that it's not, because
Mhm.
it's not material. And you are yourself, and you have those kinds of experiences that you can have when you're in the astral world. And then eventually, there's a vibration. You begin to be pulled back into the material world because it's time to face whatever you haven't finished. But the material world you're drawn into is you're going to be drawn to it because of the energy pattern. The material world is also just an energy pattern. It's not a fixed reality.
No.
So Yogananda says there are countless inhabited planets, and those inhabited planets are all at different levels of awareness.
Mhm.
We have many, many relationships with other individuals, and we're not all together all the time. We look at a country, a culture, a family, the karma of the planet, the enlightenment or lack of it on the planet, other people that we need to be with, and all of those things in some magical way I can't describe lead us to suddenly find ourselves in a baby's body. And we bring with us the whole story. You just bring the whole story there, but it unfolds as circumstances allow. So you may have, maybe this is a lifetime in which you're going to have a really tough, hard upbringing because there's some big lesson that you're going to have the opportunities to learn. This may be the incarnation in which you're born to rich parents who adore you and you have a wonderful, easy time. And your learning comes from another source. But it's always attracted by the vibrations that are within
Mhm.
you. And those vibrations, then you call on whatever is needed to meet the moment. So the answer to that is no, you don't lose anything, but it may look different and you may have to play out different aspects of it. Some of the stuff, for example, that I didn't have the courage to face or didn't want to face. One of my tremendous incentives for dealing with what's in front of me
Oh,
is I say to myself, having this karma once is one time too many. I do not want to see this karma again. And I will do my very best to resolve it as far as I can. But if I can't, I just say, okay, I'll see you again. We'll figure it out.
wow. Oh God. So what would you like to, who would you like to become in the next lifetime?
Um, what
What kind of the life would you like to
do
have?
I would like to continue to expand my consciousness to become closer and closer to divine perfection. I would like to be an instrument of the light into the world. I would like to give back to others all the blessings that have been given to me. And how and where that plays itself out but is not important to me, or it's not even within my power to say. I've certainly enjoyed the company of Swami Kriyananda. If I could have his company again, I would be very happy. If I have to work not in his physical presence, then I accept that that's the way it should be. My goal is divine perfection for the sake of sharing it with others.
But who is in charge of it? Because I'm just only curious, and probably the people who are listening guys are really curious. Who is charge of it? I mean, charge of it, our incarnation. So, okay, we are, but is somebody like, okay, you said a divine mother, but they're just only thinking, is that truly true? I don't know.
Well, it in your way of asking the question, you're making separations that don't really exist.
Okay.
And that's why they use the word realization. You
Realization.
don't actually become something that you're not already. You just realize what you've always been.
Okay, perfect.
And the Sanskrit word for God, what the best one that I like is Satchitananda, ever existing, ever conscious, ever new bliss. If we did not, when people suffer, they feel that there's something wrong.
Mhm.
If we were actually made of suffering, it would not occur to us that suffering is wrong. The very thought that we feel that something is wrong when we suffer means that we know that our true nature is not suffering, that our actual true nature is bliss. And this is just the impossible riddle that everyone has to get through, which is why don't I already know that? And there's no
Yeah.
answer to that. I mean, the answers to it are just trick answers, like, well, the level of consciousness that asks the question can't understand the answer, which is a non-answer. But at a certain point, you ask that question in such a way that you have an intuitive understanding that it's okay the way it is.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't matter, for me personally, I can't answer these giant questions, but I know where I'm standing and I can see the light and I can tell which direction is where the light is. I have a pole star. Of course, I was well trained. I have Swami Kriyananda. He's my pole star.
Hmm.
And so when I'm a landscape of confusion, I can look to that. I mean, this is the idea of the guru or the teacher. I look there and I can feel the vibration and I find the action or thought
Right.
that will take me closer to that vibration. So I no longer reason out everything in quite the same way. I
Hmm.
match the vibration of that power which I have experienced and can trust. And the rest of it, I don't know. I just move this foot, 1 foot, and that's good. Then I check directions again after that. It's a homing beacon.
Hmm.
Who and what that is, it's actually myself. But there's so much distance between me and that ultimate destiny that it feels like separation. So we make up all these stories about God and about Divine Mother because it works. If I call that beacon of light Divine Mother, I feel her love and I'm not afraid. If I call it my own self, I'm scared because I know that I'm incapable and
Yeah.
incompetent. It doesn't make me feel safe.
Yeah, that's true. So but I'm just only calling that the vision came to me. It's like we just only created all the aspects, all the things. Like I'm taking them as a toys because when you've got a good toy, they can bring you the happiness, they can bring you the peace or joy or something like that. So we just only can't take it every
Yeah.
time something different. Just give, okay, I'm good, I'm fine. Oh, I'm fine. Oh,
That's exactly true. And also, when a little child plays with dolls, she learns how to love and how to care for it. And you
Yeah,
don't say, oh, that's just a doll, because you know that she's learning something she needs to learn. In our human lives, when we love and care for each other, Divine Mother doesn't say, oh, that's just temporary. I'll give you eternal love. She
yeah,
says, good, very good, because we're learning how to love. And then we learn how to love more and more. And then we discover infinite love. That's the story. So
nice.
who's in charge? What's in charge is the way things are, the way we're made. Who made it? I don't know. I really don't
That's a
know.
lot of that's a lot of ideas. Let's go leave it that. I would like to say I made it by my own self, and everyone is made it anyway. We are the oneness, wholeness. So it is.
And what we need to find the level of understanding that motivates us, that gives us the power to keep going. And we need to follow that with commitment and every ounce of energy we have. And as long as it is right for us, and then when we reach the edge of it, we have to have the humility to say, well, if what else could there be? And then the main thing is to remain open, to be committed to what we know, but not so fixed on it that we can't learn anymore. A constant learning. That's what, and until we're aware of something, we don't know it.
Yeah, that's completely true. I was just only stop and pause and freeze myself 20 years. I was like really stubborn. I said, no, I don't want to learn that. No, I don't. No, no, no. That was so much pain. That was so much pain. Anyway, so
No,
that's why we need to be open. But that pain
right.
gave me stronger.
That's exactly right. You see, and once you even know that a little bit in principle, then the next time the pain comes, the next time you reach the limit, you're not so stubborn because you remember. And you also, that's a memory that goes through many incarnations. Oh, yeah, I remember. And as long as I keep beating my head against this and insisting on my way, it didn't work out so well. So maybe I need to think in another way. When I tried to run away from the pain and just hunker down with a pillow over my head, that didn't work out so well. And I remember when I faced into the pain and did what was needful. Oh, look at all the wonderful doors that opened. So then you begin to just move through the world very, very differently. But experience, there's nothing, that's it, simply experience.
Yes, it is. So what supports you during that difficult or challenging time in your life before we're going to wrap up our conversation?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
So the question is sometimes the people when they're coming over their own karmic
Right,
stuff, they've got a mantra, they've got, I don't know, books
right.
or somebody who is going to support them. If you would like to, of course, share.
So what do I use to get through the
Yeah,
hard
that's
times?
right. That's my last
Well,
question, a final question.
well, I'm a disciple of a great master. So I always look to my guru to help me. And that's a long, long standing relationship. I also I feel God's presence as a mother, and that's also extremely important to me because I I need to be comforted, and I need to be told you can do it. And then I also need to know what I'm supposed to do.
Okay.
So when I have met difficult times, I bring to those difficult times a lot of practice when it wasn't so hard. And when I asked Swami Kriyananda a question once about some very complicated issue, he said, well, what you're asking is, how can you be connected to higher consciousness and wisdom in a moment of crisis or in a very hard time? He said, you must have practiced when it was easier. And so I have made it a lifelong practice, not a perfect practice by any means, but I always try to solve any issue, no matter how small, by thinking about the teachings that I know, the practices I've been given, and I always try to act consistently. So what you're building then is you're building a habit.
Mhm.
You're building a habit of drawing from a higher source so that when the pressure's really on, the muscle is in place. You're not trying to just create it in that final moment. So how are we spending our everyday time? What are we doing? Are we meditating? Are we exercising? Are we eating properly? Are we watching our thoughts? Are we being compassionate? Are we being kind? Are we judging? Are we angry? Every your life is created 1 minute at a time. And there's not a single minute that isn't important. And when pressure comes, you will go according to habit. So you need to build the habit that makes it easier.
There's a lot of to take it in and on. Oh my goodness, that's the beautiful, beautiful, the wisdom and knowledge you and your experience. Thank you so much for sharing. Where the
Oh,
people
it's
can find you?
my name, Asha Nayaswami. You can actually just put it on, type it in anywhere. I have an Instagram channel. I have many, many, many classes on YouTube. You can just go to YouTube and type in teachings of Jesus, karma, reincarnation, chakras, happiness, emotions, anything. I've been talking for decades. It's all there. And I have several books. Just look, if you look anywhere, you'll find it. Okay.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And yeah, I hope to will see you soon again.
Well, thank you, Gabriela. It's been very nice to talk to you.
Thank
All
you.
right, my dear. God bless you.
Thank you.